You're listening to Acadiana's Morning News, and joining us in studio this morning, Mr. Josh Guillory. He is one of the 5 candidates for Lafayette Mayor President, and it has been a very busy campaign that has been going on. Josh, good morning.
Good morning, Bernie.
All right, so we have a variety of different things we want to talk with you a little bit about. I mean, so many different things. Okay, so let's talk about how rough and real races can get, right? Okay, so how have you found it campaigning this time compared to the campaign against Higgins?
Very different. It's one parish as opposed to 9+ parishes.
Right, sure.
So that's definitely a difference. But every issue that we talk about affects our family, affects our community more so than, you think about the federal level. Mm-hmm. Congress is so disconnected, even Baton Rouge so disconnected. But when we're talking about issues of infrastructure, jobs, drainage, public safety, fire protection, that's all real. That any one of us 4 in this studio could be affected by that. So that's probably the main difference. And also when you're knocking door to door in a community that you love, that you lived in for, I've lived here almost 20 years. My wife's grew up here. It tend to know people that you knock on the door of. So it's talk about real. They're going to give you some real answers, good, bad, or ugly. So that's good and it's welcoming. We like it. Jamie and I, we invite that.
Mm-hmm. So what was it about this race that made you decide to jump into it, Josh?
It all starts with a desire for public service. Mm-hmm. I joined the military because I wanted to give back, and I wanted to serve something greater than myself, and I genuinely mean that. And so I have that same calling right now to give back. Now, this particular race, this is a local election. I look at our community. I see the direction that our parish is going into. I have 3 children. I have a wife. I hope to have grandchildren one day. I want them to have the same opportunities that we all had. I want them to be able to wake up every day and have the feeling that I can do anything that I want to do as long as I work hard, as long as I bust my tail, I can achieve it. That's the community I want Lafayette to have. And I see the policies and I see the directions that we're going, and I'm fearful of that. I'm alarmed. And I know with proper leadership, with proper communication, with transparency, that we can have that for our community, and I'm ready to deliver that.
What are some of the things that have alarmed you? I mean, what are some of the things that you have been alarmed by and things that you think are not going in the right direction?
It starts with our priorities. Our priorities are out of whack. Government has a basic function, if you think about it. Economics, infrastructure, and safety. Mm-hmm. If we can just get that under control, if we can get our drainage under control, if we can get our roads in a better condition, and it's more than just our roads, if we can proactively re-engineer our traffic so traffic can flow, so we don't have to even have these ideas of sending thoroughfares through neighborhoods that devalue property, if we can focus on fire protection, if we can focus on taking care of both our firemen and our police officers so that we don't lose them to other neighboring parishes and states, and bring jobs back, if we can get that under control, everything else will fall into place. All these little pet projects, cultural awareness, which I say this all the time. I am a son of a blue-eyed soul singer. I promise you. My dad was a musician. That's what he did for a living. He wasn't an accountant. He wasn't a doctor, lawyer. He played music. I know culture. I love our culture. But government didn't create our culture. We did. Now, I understand if we have extra money, we want to promote it. That's fine. But let's take care of the basic needs of our parish. We get our priorities under control. Everything else will fall into place.
When you talk about putting priorities in control and in their proper perspective, one of the main things I think about is something that we've heard from listeners here on KPEL, listeners that are upset with so much money going towards the library system, whether it's current library system or future building of library, when you have issues with drainage and roads and bridges. Let me ask you this. How does the library system fit into your vision for the budget?
Stephanie Williams, I hope you listen. Bernie, I think you interviewed me a couple months ago, and I gave credit to Stephanie Williams, my 7th grade English teacher. She taught me something that was so profound that it's just stuck with me my entire life, okay? And that is quantity does not equal quality. I want a vibrant library system. Nobody here is going to say we don't want a vibrant library system, but just because we can build another public building doesn't mean we should. We have higher priorities. I'd rather a dry house than a wet book. Fix your drainage. Get the roads under control. Fix the basic tenets of government. And with proper leadership, I know we can do it, and I'm ready to do it on day one.
Okay, let's talk about, and we're going to do that coming up. We're going to talk about leadership, all of this stuff, as we continue our conversation with Josh Guillory, one of the 5 candidates for mayor president. in Lafayette. And again, everybody getting a shot this week. We did it in alphabetical order. So today is Josh Guillory, his opportunity between now and 9 a.m. to talk with all of us and really all of you. Acadiana's Morning News. Joining us in studio this morning, Josh Guillory, one of the 5 candidates for Lafayette Mayor President, as we continue to talk with him and ask questions. All right, so one of the things that's different for you and the other candidates, you're in this race, but you haven't served in a public office capacity before.
Right.
So is that an advantage, not an advantage? How do you think about that?
Thank God. We need a fresh breath in Lafayette Consolidated Government. And I mean that. Think about in 2016, we hear all this phrase thrown out in these forums, on the job training. I said it yesterday at the forum. Thank God in 2016 we did not go with the candidate that had all the government experience, and we went with Donald J. Trump. Can you imagine? No, really. Can you imagine? Can you imagine our Supreme Court? Can you imagine the federal bureaucracy? Can you imagine the overreach from the federal government? We need the experience of a business leader. We need the experience of someone that's led people in battle, in the real world, in the civilian world. I don't know everything. I promise you. I probably don't know more than I do know. But I know what I know, and I know what I don't know. And what I don't know, I'll surround myself around people that can compensate. And that's what a good leader does, and that's what a good team does. No one can do this by themselves. I'm ready to lead, but I'm not so naive, and I know this from experience. I can't do it all by myself. I can't run my practice by myself. I can't run my business by myself. I couldn't have led those troops in battle by myself. So surround yourself around great people, great things happen.
Oh, there you go. Next up.
All right, let's go ahead and go back to drainage. It was mentioned earlier, but want to get a little bit more in depth into it.
Go.
It's a big issue. I'm sure you're hearing about it a lot when you go door to door speaking with people. What are the major parts of your plan to prevent regular flooding in the city parish that we've seen that recent flooding in recent years?
Sure. What I'm about to say, every candidate should say, because it's the right answer. So you have things that you can control. Some people call it low-hanging fruit. I just look at it from a local standpoint, from a regional standpoint, because a lot of our drainage is a regional issue. So locally, things that we can do, we can clean our coulees, we can clean our ditches, we can focus on litter, we can focus on retention, mainly detention ponds. We got to think outside the box.
Well, really, it's outside the pond, I guess.
Outside the pond as well. Now,
right.
Down here in Lafayette, we'll say that these days. But linear retention, things like that, working with developers to have proactive approaches so we can have proper drainage analysis when we issue these permits. So that's all things we can do locally. We don't have to mess with the Corps of Engineers. We don't have all this other federal red tape to go through, or state red tape, or not as much. And then regionally, we have to partner, and I will sound the charge and work with our parish presidents that surround our parish to attack drainage on a watershed level. The key from a regional standpoint is to lower the levels in our watershed, the Test Vermilion watershed. And there's ways that you can do that. One way we saw right before Hurricane Barry, in anticipation of heavy rains and storms, shut off the pumps at the Bayou or the Test Vermilion Freshwater District. Just doing that can lower our river several feet of water. You lower the levels of the river, then our watershed is lower. So we can that body of water can hold more water. But again, I'm not a hydrologist. I'm not a civil engineer. Matter of fact, I don't think any candidate in this race is a civil engineer or hydrologist. But I know leadership, and I know organization, and I know how to set reasonable objectives and meet those objectives, and that's what we need in a mayor president. We need someone that's out in front, lead from the front, work with other people, motivate parishes around us that may have hesitations to certain ideas, dredging the Vermilion. If that's the right thing to do, then let's partner with our neighboring parishes so that, one, we're good neighbors, but two, we address the issue from a more regional standpoint. And by the way, when it comes to funding for all these projects, LCG has any given year $600 to $700 million in our budget. Okay, we have the money to take care of our local needs in this issue. We don't need to raise taxes. We need to cut spending. We need to reallocate, and with the help of the voters on certain issues, rededicate some of these funds to take care of our priorities.
So that's how you would tackle things. You don't
Absolutely.
think there would be a need for any kind of new tax or anything like that?
We may need additional revenue, but the way you do that is that fourth part of my priority is bring jobs. We need to increase our tax base, not our tax rate. But we may have a shortfall in our budget when we talk about attacking a regional issue. Well, I expect regional help. We have representatives that we elect, and we're electing some Saturday, and we have some good ones here. Send them to Baton Rouge. Give us some help. This is your home too. Mm-hmm. Washington D.C. We send a rep. We have a hard-charging representative that I had the privilege of running with, not against, and I appreciate his service. He's in my prayers. He's got my full support, and I think he's doing a good job. And I know that I can pick up the phone and call his office and partner with him so that we can have some federal help here in Lafayette Parish.
Brandon?
You just mentioned bringing jobs into this area.
Yes.
One thing that we've talked about is outmigration has become an ugly word in this area. We've been losing jobs. First off,
In our state.
Yeah, in our state as well.
Yeah.
But here in Lafayette Parish, tell us a little bit about your plans on how not only to retain jobs in this area, but also to bring jobs into this area.
You know, Brandon, we have to bring the oil and gas industry back. Now, I can't sit here, and I would be very naive to tell you that as mayor president I can snap my fingers and fix the problems in Louisiana to make that happen. But as a mayor president, you also wear the hat of a mayor. And if God blesses me with a victory and with the help of these fine listeners to send me in that office, I will have the honor, the distinct honor of being the mayor of the fourth largest city in this state. That carries with it a large microphone, and I will be an advocate to bring oil and gas back. Two things, and I'll be in Baton Rouge weekly if we need to. Two things. One, end legacy lawsuits. Don't curb them. Don't reform them. Don't say I'm going to minimize attorneys' fees. Ban them. You know, the legislature has the authority to do that. Do it. Second, our severance tax. Okay, Texas 4% to drill, 12.5% here in Louisiana. Where would you dig? Where would you drill if you were an oil and gas company?
I mean, the math is clear as far as that goes.
Even Common Core math, you can figure it out. Did I say that? But we got to bring it back. But it's more than oil and gas. So I understand that. You're going to make me laugh, Bern. I understand that there's only so much control, and that is a state issue. But I want our listeners to know that that's my intent to advocate on that cause, because oil and gas is still our bread and butter. But we got to do more than that.
Well, I was about to say, how do we diversify the economy?
You hit the nail on the head. We need to diversify. Two things that we can do. We got to readdress Plan Lafayette. Big government Plan Lafayette, our master plan. We do need a master plan, but we don't need a master plan that was paid for by the taxpayers, $1.2 million from a firm not in Lafayette, not in Louisiana, but in Philadelphia. Now, I don't even know if they know how to pronounce boudin in Philadelphia, but I'd like for local planners to plan our future. It's important. Now, I'm not against looking at best practices outside the state or the city, and that's fine. We don't need to reinvent the wheel. I think that's an objective approach to a decision. But we have good ideas here. I mean, we are a Cajun country. You know, we have survived all bus. We've survived 9/11. We survived so many things. We can figure this out. We can plan our own future. We don't need to go to these big cities to do that. Okay, so Plan Lafayette. But overwhelmingly, we must address the UDC. The UDC is a killer for businesses. I'm not anti-regulation. I don't think anybody here is anti-regulation, but I want reasonable and fair regulations. At this point, I support repealing and replacing the UDC. We need to replace it with something, but I don't need a document that was initiated in 2015 that has 94 pages of amendments to it. I'm going to say that again. 94 pages, not 94 amendments. 94 pages of amendments since 2015. Throw it in the trash. Let's restart. But we have to replace it with a common sense approach to regulations. We have great examples within our own parish. Broussard, for example. A lot of these. Scott, I mean, I could go through each of our municipalities. They do a great job because they have more of a local approach. That they don't have a culture that we have at LCG. The culture at LCG right now is a culture of no. It's a knee-jerk reaction. No, I'm not saying any individual over there. I think we have great employees, but we need with proper leadership, and I intend to bring that, and I know I will. I know I can get our directors to change that culture. Sometimes you have to say no. I have to tell my children no. But in this business climate, in an economic downturn that we're in, we have to be able to find ways to say yes. And our municipalities in the parish, they get it. I want to bring that mindset to LCG.
All right, it's coming up now on 8:27. Josh Guillory is our guest. We've got more to come with him on Acadiana's Morning News. You're listening to Acadiana's Morning News, 8:31. Josh Guillory, one of the 5 candidates for Lafayette Mayor President, joining us in studio. All right, so let's talk political party. Does that matter for you whenever you decide, okay, I'm going to vote or I'm going to run for office, those types of things? What do you think about it? What are your thoughts?
My thoughts are this. The moment I find a Democrat that's pro-life, pro-Second Amendment, that supports limiting the size of the federal government, all levels of government, wants to implement the principles of our Constitution, I'll consider them. You tell me when I find one.
Okay. Well, I guess you're clear on that then. Okay, so what do you think about the idea of these Facebook profiles that have been featured? You know, this race has been a clean race, but in the beginning, they would in the beginning, a couple of Facebook fake ones came out for you, fake Facebook for you, some for Carly. I don't know if any others. What do you feel about that kind of stuff as part of a campaign?
Well, again, we kind of talked about this on the break. I can only control what I can control. And I am proud of our team. I really am. I'm proud of our volunteers, our staff, proud of the way that we've handled ourselves, conducted ourselves. I believe that you should focus on the message that you can bring. I believe that voters need to hear that. They're tired of that. I'm tired of it. I really don't give too much, personally, I don't give too much credit to these attack ads. We see that in the governor's election. I'm kind of displeased to see that. But again, Bernie, I feel like our message is so strong that it'll outweigh any negative attack. And by the way, people, and I'll tell you this, establishment, if you're listening, you fight what you fear, because I'm bringing in change. And I have no interest at all to keep doing the same old. You keep it, the definition of insanity, do the same thing over and over and expect different results. I'm coming in to shake up Lafayette consolidated government, but in a good way. I just want government to do what it's supposed to do. I want our tax dollars that our listeners, hardworking people, okay, probably driving to work right now. When you send your tax dollars to Lafayette consolidated government, all I want it to do is be spent wisely and responsibly. That's all we're asking for as a community. And I know that I can instill principles that will do that and will facilitate that.
So how do you feel when it comes to, the whole thing, looking at all the people that, joined your team, that do support you, et cetera? Those are things that you can look on and say, okay, those are things I can control, and controlling your message and getting out to the voters, et cetera. What kind of things did you tell them when people started volunteering with you, wanting to be part of your team? What kind of thing did you share with them? What you wanted them? What message did you want them to send?
Anytime, whether I'm in my practice, in my business, when I was in the military, and in my campaign, mm-hmm. I always want to tell everybody that's part of my team my command philosophy. I learned mm-hmm. that in the military. I want you to know what my intent is and where I am. I want you to know where my heart is and what we want to bring to Acadiana, what we want to bring to Lafayette. And the reason why I do that is, first, to vet people, because you don't want people to come in here that mm-hmm. have bad intentions, okay, or that are mainly that do not share in your principles, or do not share in the message that you're trying to give to the public. So I want everybody to be on the same team, but the message of positivity is not just to feel good and happy. I truly believe that if you do not tell people why they should support you, why would you spend your time doing that, as opposed to telling them why they shouldn't vote for the other person.
Yeah, okay.
I just believe it's a stronger way to approach life. Mm-hmm. And God, it's so less stressful. I mean, I really less stress, look. Right? I really believe. Look, I believe in Jesus Christ, and I believe that God has placed in every human good. I really do. I think this is my personal belief. I think it's unnatural to be mean. I really do. I'm serious. To me, it's so much energy that's drained wasted from your life. Mm-hmm. God only gives you, YOLO. You only live once. Well, you only live. I promise you. Look, I've seen life or death. It is fragile, yeah. So value it. And when you do, live it to the fullest, be positive. We're all human. We're going to have bad days, But when you wake up and say, I get to do this. Don't say I got to do it. I get to do this.
What did
whatever
you do
that is.
In service of our country? What kind of service did you do? Tell us more about that.
Sure. Greatest honor of my life, greatest job of my life. It really is. I was enlisted first, so I was a radio operator, learned a lot, and when I later went to officer candidate school, became an officer, and then God blessed me with being a cavalryman. So I went to join.
How neat. Okay, tell us more about that.
Oh, I loved it. It's greatest group of guys that I ever had the privilege of being around, lifelong friends. There are friends, and then there are friends that will literally die for you. Okay.
Yeah.
And it's just good. I just always felt good when I was in the service, and I probably. Jamie, I don't know if you're listening, but I probably would still be in if we wouldn't have. If it wasn't for you. No, I'm kidding. No, I'm joking. No, we had our third child, and that was my hand and arm signal to exit. Mm-hmm. But and it was the right decision. I loved it though. I really do. My greatest time on this planet was in Baghdad, Iraq in 2005.
Really?
Hands down.
You can say that was one of the best times of your life.
The best time of my life.
That's kind of.
Yep. Now, stressful time. Scary. Yeah. Some of the events were scary, Uh-huh. But and I'm not trying to get a holy roller here, but when you have faith.
That's why I want, so people can know who you are.
Please.
And what makes who you are.
Absolutely. when you have faith, I don't look when we die. I believe I'm going to heaven. I believe that everybody here, accept Jesus Christ in your heart, you'll go to heaven. So I believe that when I was over there, there's prayers and there's prayers when you're in battle, but I never knew, man. I'd go to sleep and you got mortars going in, not every day, but they're close enough where we did have casualties, and you didn't know if you were going to be one. So you didn't know the next time if your next vision was St. Peter, so you got to but that my faith got me through that, and my faith gets me through everything in life. I pray before I go on this radio station. I will pray after this interview, and it's just God be with me, give me wisdom.
Okay, how do you reconcile that with some of the decisions?
And also, I'm glad I'm Catholic because we have confession. But anyway, go ahead.
All right, how do you reconcile that with some of the duties you will have in government? Because okay, so we have people that feel one way religiously,
sure.
And then we have people who feel, okay, religion doesn't make a decision, and then we have these issues that come before the council, like the issue with the drag queen story time and getting involved in that. Where do you think a mayor-president is on issues like that? Sure. What would you do? What do you see this as?
That's a twofold question. So
we'll
attack we'll address the religion. I was in military mode attack, but we'll address the religion part of it first. Well, we don't have to answer that. Our founders gave us that answer. Way back in 1791, our Bill of Rights and our First Amendment, we have the Establishment Clause and we have the Free Exercise Clause. So Free Exercise Clause, it means that I can go on your radio station and just say what I just said, and the government cannot prevent me. I can declare my faith to God, and you can declare your faith to whatever God you want to declare it to, or to no God at all. And that's okay. It's under our law, Free Exercise Clause, okay? Establishment Clause says the government can't endorse a religion. And those are two different things. So when we hear those principles of separation of church and state, while it's not technically written just like that, expressly written in the Constitution, those two clauses in the First Amendment is where we get those principles from. Thomas Jefferson wrote many letters on it. I always call him TJ with my kids. But TJ, we're buddies. Right. Thomas Jefferson, I love that guy, man. You should read his writing. Start with the Declaration of Independence. Beautiful. But then let's talk about local issues. Well, the Constitution has been interpreted by our Supreme Court to allow local communities to establish community standards. So when we talk about drag queen story time, there's nothing inappropriate, nothing illegal for a mayor, president, or a council to issue, in my legal analysis, and I believe the Supreme Court's rulings uphold what I'm about to say, to take a position on that. Now, I believe, as mayor president, you should be ahead of these controversial issues. I can only speak for myself on how I would handle it. I would have gotten in front of it, okay, in that level, on the local level. If it comes up again, whether it's this issue or other controversial issues, I'm not going to hide behind my desk. I'm not going to run from this microphone. I will be, and that's not a knock on the current administration. I'm just telling you my command philosophy. I'm telling you my leadership style. I do not support drag queen story time. There's several sensitive issues here. There's children, there's public time, public dime. And when you have that, you have to take different measures.
All right. Coming up now on 8:41, Josh Guillory is who is in studio with us this morning. He is joining us. He's one of the 5 candidates for Lafayette Mayor President, and we'll continue our conversation on the way. Acadiana's Morning News, 8:46. Josh Guillory joining us in studio this morning, one of the 5 candidates for Lafayette Mayor President. We'll have the remaining 2 candidates on. We had 2, obviously, one Monday, one Tuesday. Josh's turn today. So, kind of curious as to the perspective for you about when you are going door to door, what people are telling you. Is it all about drainage or infrastructure, like the traffic issues or whatever? Is it all of that, or are there a lot of other issues that are being talked about too?
So most doors we knock on, drainage is the number one issue. Even houses that haven't flooded, it's still front of mind, because think about it. We all know a neighbor or a family member or someone we're close to, or someone we have no idea who, but we went in their house and ripped their sheetrock out because that's who we are as a community.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I think it creates that fear. Could it happen here? So that's why it's front of mind, and it's still fresh. And 2016 happened, the 1,000-year flood. Complacency started to sit in from my observation, and then June happened. A couple inches of rain. I know it's more than that, but it's flash flooding around our area. So it's naturally front of mind. We hear that across the parish, and I've knocked on doors in every single municipality in the unincorporated areas in Lafayette. And if I had more time, I'd probably knock on every door. If I could, I would, and Jamie would vouch for me on that. It's my favorite thing to do. But we also hear other infrastructure needs, because infrastructure and jobs are kind of what we hear on a daily basis. Roads, my friends out in the Karen Crow area, Jolie Road, I have not forgotten about you. And neither has your representative. She's doing a good job. Julie Emerson is very, very front of mind. She's on top of on front of these issues. So I look forward to working with her and with our other Baton Rouge reps to address this. But drainage, roads, traffic, again, don't forget about it. And here's another area, especially, and I was in Milton last night, and we had a good conversation on fire protection, specifically fire protection in our unincorporated areas. My slogan is one parish, one future. It's more than a slogan. I believe that. I live that. And we have that has to be our mindset going forward. And when we talk about these two councils, city council, parish council, Warren Cottle would always say, every inch of the city of Lafayette is in the parish
of Lafayette.
That's right. So we're going to need some teamwork. I'm not going in there to mediate. You hear other candidates say we want to mediate between. No, it's not mediation time. It's leadership time. I plan to lead these two councils and partner with them and listen. Look, they will represent their constituents. I'd be a fool not to listen to them and say, here, what are you saying? I mean, I'll have my own administration out in the parish, but, that's partnership. That's teamwork because, government works for the people. We talked about the culture of LCG recently, earlier in our conversation. That's what I mean by that. Changing the culture is more than just I'm going to go in there and I'm going to wreck shop. No, it's truly putting common sense principles that make sense to service our community so that we can have a better tomorrow, so that our children can have a better tomorrow, and our grandchildren and great-grandchildren can have the same opportunities we had.
Should the positions be split, though? Should we have a mayor of Lafayette and then a parish president?
Yes.
And why do you want it that way? Why do you think it should be that way?
I support deconsolidation. I support a parish president and a city mayor. I support a city council and a parish council. That's where we need to go. The reason why is because I believe there's more accountability. I believe that there's more efficiency in the levels of government. If we could have neighborhood governments, Bernie, I would support that because there's more accountability. It's kind of like it's equivalent to a student-teacher ratio almost. Just like the council, we'll have 5 members on our city council. Again, we're the 4th largest city in the state. By law, any political subdivision has to have a council. The minimum is 5. Why would we purposefully say that we want the minimum representation for our people?
Should it be 7?
Yes.
Should it be 9?
7's a good number.
7's a good number?
I'd support 9. But listen, and now people can come back, Guillory's big government. No, that's not big government. That's better representation. We can allocate in the budget. It wouldn't be as much of a workload, so you can reduce the pay. I don't know if our council members would like that, but
but
they'd have to vote on it.
There's already some strange numbers in the districts anyway.
Very.
One district has 38,000 people, and you look at another district, and it's got 26,000 people.
It's ridiculous.
How is that,
Because it was ramrodded through like many principles in our state policies, okay, and local policies. But, look at, again, that student-teacher ratio kind of analogy. What's easier for a council member, to represent 5 neighborhoods or 20? And that's kind of the way I look at it.
Okay. If you were put in a position where the council comes to you and says, okay, we want what you're thinking is going to be on a tax issue, okay?
Sure.
And, because you're going to have 5 council people, right?
Yep.
So maybe, 2 come together and think, okay, well, we need a tax for X, Y, and Z for infrastructure, for roads, for bridges, et cetera, because it's not like, there are so many things in government that we are required to pay for as a city, as a municipality. So you got a lot of that budget, it may be $600 million, but half of it goes to police and fire, et cetera. What if they tell you the only way out is a tax, or they feel the only way out is a tax? Do you at least have the conversation? Where do you think you're going to end up on something like that? Because those people truly feel that too.
Well, government has does a great job of telling us about needs. We need this. We need a bridge. We need this for our firemen. We need this for our police officers. We need this for whatever. But we do a horrible job in government of showing where we have cut spending to achieve those goals. I promise you, in my business, I have a lot of quote-unquote needs, and if I could just print money and just go and get all these needs, man, I'd have a staff. Well, you should see my staff if I could do that, but I can't, and neither should government. So, look, I view taxes like I view war. It's a necessary evil, but let that be the last resort. I'm telling you this. I really feel very adamant about this. If the government starts off with a need, okay, we need this building, we need whatever, okay, And then you can show, and you communicate that with the public, and then you show the public, we cut this spending, we went to the voters, we reallocated this funding, we did it, we did all this, we went to Baton Rouge, they've exhausted their resources to achieve this goal, we went to the federal government, they've exhausted their resources, and you're at that last resort part, but look at all what we will have to do to get to that part. Then we can have the conversation of raising taxes. But I'm telling you, $600 to $700 million, last year $622 million in our budget. We have the resources to satisfy our needs. Where we have a shortfall, it's more on regional projects such as drainage, and I expect regional help. We're not in this alone. We didn't get here alone. It doesn't affect just Lafayette, and I know with true partnership, true leadership, we can satisfy our needs. But you're right, though, Bernie, about certain things. Hey, we're mandated by state law to pay for certain things. Courthouse, jail.
Choice,
we have no choice.
Right.
We have millages that are dedicated to certain projects, certain initiatives.
Right.
That's fantastic. I have another one of my colleagues, I don't want to call them opponents, colleagues in this race that advocates for zero-based budgeting. She's right. We all support as fiscal conservatives, we support zero. I support zero-based budgeting for sure. But it's not just, you can't just start from zero. This is not a municipality where we have those privileges and we have certain things we have to pay for. But after you pay for the things that you're required to by law, your jail, your courthouse, other initiatives, after you pay for what the millages are dedicated to, and you have this money, it should go to our priorities. Put it more to drainage. Put it more to roads. Put it more to whatever brings jobs back, whatever that means, okay?
And a lot of people have talked about that in relation to the library system.
Sure.
You have a lot of library supporters out there, though.
Sure.
You have people that really support having this new branch built on the north side of Lafayette. But then you also have people who are going to go to the polls and say, well, look, I want something rededicated, or I want the power to do that.
Yes.
Where are you on that? Do you think people should vote to have funds rededicated to roads and bridges and drainage?
100%. Absolutely. And I would support those initiatives. And I'm going to try to find, I'm going to do everything I can to find more ways where if we can do it unilaterally through the administration or through the council, then we'll do it there because it's easier, and that's what you send us to town hall to do, or city hall to do. But on other areas, like take the CREATE initiative, okay? A lot of people support, that's fine.
And there's a lot of discussion about that, too.
I support rededicating those funds to our priorities. And look, maybe you disagree with me, but at least you know where I stand, okay? And I believe our community would support that because we have higher needs. It goes back to that cultural awareness. The government didn't create our culture. We did. Now, there are certain aspects of CREATE, for example, that are good, like the bilingual workforce. Cotterfield support, we support that. That's great but guess what? That helps us with jobs. That makes our local citizens more attractive to companies around the world, and makes Lafayette more attractive to companies around the world. So we want to be inviting. So that area, that's fine, but we can find ways within our budget to even promote that aspect of CREATE. But all this other stuff needs to go to our priorities. Again, if we had I'm going to tell you right now, if our drainage was under control, if our roads were under control, if our traffic was properly engineered, I promise you we could then talk about building more public buildings.
All right, it's coming up now on 8:56. We have 30 seconds left, which we always leave to the candidate for final thoughts to share with our listeners. Josh Guillory, please.
Well, I wish I had more than 30 seconds, but let me tell you, to our listeners, it would be an honor to serve as mayor president. I love this community. We raise our children here. I run my practice here, run our business here. Everything we hold dear is in this community. I know our brighter days are ahead as long as we get our priorities in order. Let's fix our roads. Let's fix drainage. Let's re-engineer traffic. Let's protect our firemen and our police officers because they protect us. Let's get our priorities in order. And with proper leadership, we can do that, and I'm ready to do that on day one. I'm Josh Guillory, running for mayor president. I humbly ask for your support and your prayers. Thank you.
All right, sir. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Coming up now on 8